Hey all, here OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the TICWRIS GTS. This is a budget fitness tracker slash smartwatch that sells for under 25 bucks. And for that low price, we're talking about a unique function of being able to record your body temperature, or rather your skin temperature to be more specific. It's not going to be medically grade accurate, but it gives you a good estimation. And in these COVID-19 times, of course, fever is a symptom closely tied to COVID-19, so it could be something that's worth taking a closer look at. Aside from that body temperature monitor function, however, it's still a very basic smartwatch. It has a pretty typical 1.3-inch LCD IPS display. It is a full touchscreen. We're also able to track basic sports activities, our heart rate, blood pressure, and blood oxygen level, give you alerts if things are abnormal. And as with most of these light smartwatches, the battery life is also quite good. It can last up to 20 days before you need to recharge it if you're using it sporadically without as much syncing going on, or about a week if you're consistently using all the sensors to be detecting throughout the day. It doesn't come with built-in GPS, so it's not going to track your route on a map unless you bring along your phone, but it will track things like calories, steps, as well as your average speed by using calculation methods. In terms of the packaging, it's pretty simple. Aside from the smartwatch itself, this is what the packaging looks like. It comes in a few different versions in terms of the watch straps. Now, the name of this watch, the GTS, is kind of reminiscent of the Amazfit GTS smartwatch by Xiaomi. That is a more expensive model, and they tried to kind of, I guess, imitate or find inspiration from that more well-known device by offering a similar name and kind of similar style with the crown key, but the dimensions are a little bit smaller on this, and it has a shrunken down display. And other packaging contents include the charging cradle, which is kind of unique. Most of these smartwatches uses a magnetic pogo system, and then you drop the smartwatch into it, close up the lid, and then plug it in for charging. It actually works pretty well, and it's kind of an interesting alternative mechanism. It also includes a screen protector in the box, which is pretty rare to see on smartwatches, so you can protect the tempered glass screen from scratches. And finally, there's just a basic user manual. In terms of the design of the TICWRIS GTS, it is extremely lightweight, and that's because the entire watch is constructed out of a polycarbonate plastic for the body. It's a little reminiscent of the Amazfit bib in terms of its construction and the fact that it feels almost invisible when you're wearing it. It's super comfortable. But that's a contrast to the majority of other smartwatches, even budget ones that we've been seeing recently that have at least a metal frame. Perhaps an area where they were able to cut costs. The crown key here does have accents which are again reminiscent of the GTS or the Apple Watch, and the interesting thing here is it can even spin. It has kind of a spring mechanism every single time you turn it, but the action of spinning it doesn't do anything on this watch. You can only press down to turn it on and activate the display. Now on the rear we have the watch bands, which again can be removed and replaced. We have these two little metal contacts which are used for the body temperature monitor, and then we have an optical sensor in the middle for your heart rate, as well as the charging contacts. Taking a closer look at the watch's user interface, it's pretty simple. There's only 4 watch faces on here, and unfortunately we don't have the option to expand on it using the companion app, so you're stuck with the ones which are provided. The first one here I think I like the best. It shows in a chart view the 7 days of the week and about how many steps you've taken throughout the week, as well as status for the current day in terms of steps I've taken today, calories burned, as well as my current heart rate. I can swipe down here to take a look at quick controls, things like adjusting the brightness of the display. I can also see my connectivity status, as well as the battery status remaining a do not disturb mode. I can swipe down to take a look at my messages and notifications. Things like emails, social media tweets, and messages will populate there. You aren't able to reply, but at least you can see the subject line, get a quick idea of what's coming in, and the watch will vibrate whenever you get a message that passes through when you're connected to your phone using Bluetooth. Now on the left-hand side, we have access to, again, the steps, distance, as well as calories for the day. And interestingly, I can actually tap on it to take a look at a more detailed plot of the steps compared to other days in the week. I can swipe over from the left to go back by 1 page. And then once below to take a look at your previous sleep tracking. It will track your light and deep sleep for the night. It works all right, but it's not as accurate as, say, on an Honor Band or a Huawei smartwatch, which can also track naps during the day. This one only works works when you're sleeping at night, but at least you don't have to turn anything on, and it will try and measure that. Swiping down once again will take you to a QR code, and this is useful when you first set up the watch using the app, and you have to scan the code using the phone's camera to bind it. Now I can also swipe over from the right to take a look at my menus. Things like taking a look at steps is replicated once again. I can also take a look at the sports. So this is the 7 different sports, including walking, indoor walking and running, cycling, climbing, swimming. They're very basic, and again, it doesn't have a built-in GPS chip, but it can track your heart rate continuously throughout the entire sports session. And when you're ready, it will begin. And the interface here will just show your steps, calories, your average speed and cadence, basic info like that, and save it over to the phone when you're finished. Over here under health, I can also record my blood pressure as well as my blood oxygen level. Blood oxygen level is also pretty useful to have just because it's another correlation to some extent with certain symptoms of COVID. If your kind of blood oxygen level is really low, it could suggest difficulties with breathing adequately. See things like controlling music playback. If you have it connected to your phone, you can play and pause and skip tracks. And afterwards, there's simple things like a timer as well as a stopwatch that you can initiate directly from the watch. And finally, there is the temperature monitor. The recommendation is to wear it for at least 1 hour to kind of have it settled down and to try not measure it in extreme environments or when you're moving about in terms of going between different regions and temperatures. If you're kind of indoors and things are at room temperature, it will work pretty well. As you saw in that test there, it takes just 5 to 10 seconds to get a measurement. It's actually faster than even the heart rate monitoring, which takes about 20 to 30 seconds to do a test. You heard an alarm there because it says that the body temperature there is too high. The reason because I was handling with my hands, which are a little bit warm here for too long, so it actually has increased the temperature, but under typical conditions, just wearing it on your wrist, it's actually decent in terms of the accuracy. Of course, again, compared to a traditional thermometer, that's going to give you more precision, but overall, as far as roughly getting a sense of if you are getting too hot or in a normal range, it still does the trick. Use it to control selfies and take images on my camera. I can find my phone and it will ring an alarm when connected, as well as take a look at the system software properties. So the UI is pretty intuitive. It's simple, straightforward, but everything works pretty well. The companion application is pretty generic, but overall it functions okay in terms of syncing info. You can just drag down to refresh the data and it will just kind of reconnect to the watch. You're able to see at a glance your steps taken during the day, as well as at what points in time you are most active, and you can also see the same record for body temperature. So you can see at different points in time in a plot, which is pretty detailed, where your highest temperature and lowest temperatures typically are within that range. Same thing goes for blood pressure and blood oxygen level. Down below here, you can see our different sports sessions categorized in those 7 different areas. Under the main page here, you can also take a look at your heart rate. It's also shown in terms of what a healthy range should be. It will also give you warnings if you exceed that limit. And also you can see that same sleep data, but on a slightly larger display, and give you a quick analysis of whether your quality is average. Otherwise, tapping on the watch itself, we can just set different alarms, allow different notifications to pass through, different reminders to get up and walk, as well as do not disturb mode, and whether we want the continuous measurements of the heart rate and body temperature to be on or turned off to conserve on battery. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the TICWRIS GTS. It's a budget smartwatch more than anything that feels really comfortable because of its ultra lightweight form factor, has great battery life so you don't have to worry about charging it every single night like the Apple Watch or Android Wear powered watches. It's not the most powerful in terms of sports tracking per se. The specialty here is more on health tracking, I'd argue, because of the presence of the body temperature monitoring, which can give you also alarms if you've surpassed a threshold, which is pretty neat, as well as things like blood oxygen level, blood pressure, and heart rate, which can all be turned on to continuously track throughout the entire day. Although I would like to see the presence of some more customization in terms of watch faces, overall for the price, I think it's pretty neat and one of the better body temperature monitoring watches that you can find. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the very affordable TICWRIS GTS body temperature smartwatch.